Good afternoon, Louisiana, and welcome to Bayou Bets for Wednesday, November 23rd, special Wednesday edition, Thanksgiving edition. Hope everybody out there is ready to hit it for the holiday weekend if you haven't already. We are live here on the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. If you are watching on Facebook or Twitter, get over to the YouTube channel, the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. Give us a subscribe there. Hit the like button. Share it with your friends. Let us know. Let people know that we are here. And we're here to talk Thanksgiving weekend, and it is just, look, Thanksgiving weekend's always brilliant in sports. From my perspective, I know you guys will disagree, but you add the World Cup into the mix. This is like the greatest weekend ever.
Really? We got all this grade A football, and the first thing you talk about is World Cup.
It's the grade A football. Yeah.
That's not football. It's foosball with legs.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Well,
human foosball.
To each his own. We hope that whatever you like to do on Thanksgiving weekend, you're able to do it. If you have not signed up for Caesars Sportsbook, go ahead and do that, and then it makes it even more fun. NOLA.com/Caesars for new users gets you a free bet up to $1,250 if you lose your first bet. Also, you can go to LSUposter.com and get a set of 3 LSU posters for free if you sign up and make a $10 bet. So lots going on. We're going to start with the local teams, and then we'll widen out from there. We also have Max Meyer from Caesars coming on to talk some trends, tell us where the money is going. He'll do that at about 4:20. But we'll start Saints 49ers Sunday, 325. The Niners 9.5-point favorites here. A pretty big number, honestly, guys, for a team on a short week.
Not enough.
A game that's expected to be defensive.
Not enough.
There we go. Dairy Downer. Here we go.
I'm just going to tell it like it is. I picked the Saints to win last week. So, in fact, I think I picked the Saints to win all but 2 or 3 games this year. So I can't be that big of a Dairy Downer, but the Saints don't match up. You want to talk about matchups that don't work. It's this one. The 49ers have the number one, not only the number one overall defense in the NFL, but they have the number one ranked rushing defense, which means it's an Andy Dalton game, which means that is bad. So it's a terrible matchup for the Saints. And the only way they're going to be able to, if this game goes over, they absolutely lose. There's no way they cover and the game goes over. So if you're going to bet on the Saints, then bet the Saints and the under, because there's no way they're going to cover and the game doesn't go over.
If Andy Dalton throws for 3 touchdown passes and the Saints win this game, will you get off his back?
No.
I didn't think
but
so.
I will say this. I will, if he plays well, I will give him credit for playing well. I gave him credit for playing well this past week.
That's very gracious of you.
Again, I tell it like it is. If you don't like it, too bad. It is what it is. Or the way I think it is. And I think the way that I think it is the way I think most people think it is at this point. Again, you're going nowhere. Sure, if you pull a rabbit out of 2 hats and win this week and win at Tampa next week and get yourself to 6-7, which would then at worst put you in a tie for the division lead, then great. That's wonderful. It's possible, but the odds against it are probably, if you wanted to bet those 2 parlays right now, the money line parlay on the Saints and the Bucks, the Saints beating the Niners and the Saints beating the Bucks, bet that money line parlay right now, it's probably about plus 1,400 is my guess. Somewhere around in that ballpark.
I'll tell you what,
Maybe
I'll check on that. I'll check on that. Spencer, your thoughts on Saints Niners?
Yeah, call me crazy, but I actually feel like more positive about this one than you would think, because I just feel like the Saints may have found a little something on offense with the rotating quarterbacks. At least temporarily, to where with rotating between Dalton and Taysom, it definitely threw the Rams off, to where I think that even
you don't actually think they're going to do that again, are you?
Oh, yeah, I think they will.
You think they will? You think Pete Carmichael's smart enough to do what works again?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think, because that's the only way you'll have a chance is if you get creative, because that's what the 49ers pride themselves on, getting creative with the offensive formations, with Debo, CMC, and all that. So it's going to be tough to beat them, but I like the Saints to cover in this one, because I think they'll be able to keep it close. I like the under as well. So it'll be interesting, and they can actually win the turnover battle. Maybe they could pull the upset.
I do like the Saints to cover, but I'm
crazy.
It's I don't know, only because I think that number's big for a team coming off a big win against a backup quarterback, traveling to Mexico, short week. It's not a great spot for the big game against Miami next week. It's just not a great spot for the Niners. So I feel like the Saints can cover. I do think the Niners will eventually win the game. By the way, a parlay on the Saints to win each of their next 2 games pays plus 1413 at Caesars.
Close to plus 1400.
Yeah. So you can turn your $10 bill into 150.
Go ahead, Spencer. Sounds like a good $20 sweat bet, except you won't be sweating because by about the middle of the second quarter, you'll realize that they're not going to beat the Niners.
Hey, it might be worth a shot. I got my Thanksgiving sweat bet. We'll get to that one later.
Yeah, we got to talk about our new feature is sweat bets.
It's really kind of weird sounding, by the way. I think we need to find out.
Yeah, we need a different name. I think maybe because the deal is, I'll just spoil it for everybody. The advocate is giving us money in our paychecks to bet, but we have to use it to bet. So we're literally betting our paychecks. And you know, I don't know if that sounds any better, but that's what's going on.
Betting our paychecks. I like it.
So what would you bet your paycheck on if you had to?
Bets.
Not the whole thing. We're not betting the whole thing, okay? But yeah, it's
Big Nick would.
That's Uncle Big Nick's a high roller, though. Okay. Speaking of high rollers,
and Kyle can go bet their whole paychecks on the Saints 49er game.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Uncle Big Nick's not going to pick against the Niners, though.
No, he's in
no, he's not. Yeah, I say he'll be on the opposite ends because I don't know if Kyle's listening, but I would think you got to be somewhat positive, man. I mean, you picked 15 wins before the season. You could still get 10 at least.
Yeah. I tell you what. Oh, Uncle Big Nick is here.
You watching the World Cup Friday, or you going Black Friday shopping?
He asked me this question during Data 2 this morning, and so I guess I was forced to I was forced to pick one. So if I have to pick one, I'm going to pick shopping because they have a food court there. That's the only reason.
I mean, you got a fridge as you watch the World Cup.
That's true.
My wife, by the way, has much English blood in her and is actually rooting for England on Friday. Now, this is not a surprise. She's rooted for England her whole life. So, you know, she wants to go out to a pub and watch the game. I think England might embarrass the U.S., and so I don't know if I want to do that. But
what time is that game?
We'll see. It's at 1:00
on Friday.
It's at 1:00. So I get USA against England and then Mizzou against Arkansas right after that on Friday. I'm going to be in for a lot of pain that afternoon, I think.
I'm going to be preparing to call Arch Manning's possible final prep game of his career.
Yeah. Listen, it's a good sports weekend, okay? And then Saturday, got LSU minus 10 at Texas A&M. Imagine telling someone back in week 1 that LSU is going to be a 10-point favorite in this game.
Could you imagine if somebody made that the look-ahead line, how fast you'd jump on Texas A&M?
Yeah, and now you'd feel pretty shaky about that, I think.
I definitely do. I don't like A&M, man. Like I said Monday, they just seem like a team that's quit. You know, I know it's the SEC. You know, anything can happen, but I don't see it happening for them here. I just don't. I mean, they're not even bowl eligible. I believe they've already got 7 losses, so they've got nothing to play for. It's just I don't see them. I don't see LSU slipping up here to where they should be able to cover this.
No. But good. I hope you're right, Spencer, because I don't.
You don't think LSU covers you?
No, I don't. I think it's going to be one of those. That would be a good sweat bet because I think it's going to be coming down to the wire. I think Texas A&M is their last game of the year, no matter what happens. They are going to have. They're going to be Katie bar the door. I think Jimbo is going to have them as ready as he possibly can. That is a tough place to play. It is the most annoying place to watch a game if you're an opposing fan, by the way. It really is annoying.
Cannot sit down. If you sit down, you can't see.
No, and I actually go and find there's a place that there's corner of the end zone spots where you can stand up, and I find it actually better to go stand up when you go there. But I think that LSU is not been in. These guys have not really been in this situation. They know they're in the SEC championship, but now they're starting to have all this college playoff talk. I think it's going to affect them. Again, I love what Brian Kelly has done. If anybody can get them over that, it's him. But we saw in the Arkansas game they came out kind of flat. They pushed the spread. I think this is a similar type situation where I'm not saying they're going to be in serious jeopardy to lose. I think they'll be winning most of the game, but I think that there could be some sweats coming down in the second half, and I just don't like the way it feels, to be honest. I think it's going to be like a 4 to 7 point game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes one of two ways. I think it's either the way Jim says, where it's tight early. LSU's really got to struggle and come up with some big plays in the fourth quarter. And like you said, A&M one last time. I think the other way it goes is if LSU maybe gets an early turnover, jumps out to a 10-0 lead or something, that A&M team is ready to roll over.
That's possible.
I mean, we've seen it. And if that's what happens, if LSU's up by 10 at halftime, and the crowd leaves like they did at halftime last week, like, look out.
I agree with that. If that's the case, then I certainly agree. If LSU jumps out to a decent lead, a 2-touchdown lead, I agree.
And I mean, that fan base is fed up. And I know Katie barred the door, all that kind of stuff. They should have done that a month ago. So it didn't work if they tried that. I mean,
I know you talk about Jimbo's contract and that they got to pay him, but I don't think they care. I think he's gone. I don't think
if they can come up with a $90 million, he's gone.
I don't think they want to watch this again.
$90 million.
$90 million.
That's chump change for guys and alumni like that. It really is. I know it sounds stupid, but that's chump change. I mean,
by the way,
it's more the principle of the thing, probably. But
yeah, I mean, it may be. Again? They got oil money. Look, if it's a question of money, A&M will find it.
Yeah.
Speaking of finding it, LSU still has some national championship hopes. I mean, we'll take a look at this. They were number 5 in the college football playoff rankings. Interesting, they're plus 460 to win the SEC, plus 550 to make the playoffs. That's mostly because they have to win both games to make the playoffs. Can't lose to A&M and then beat Georgia, and they would still be out at that point. But 25 to 1 to win the national title, probably a little light. I don't know that I would bet that at this point, but interesting numbers here.
I don't think that's light. I think that's decent value, honestly. You got to look at the money line to if they get into the championship and they get in the playoffs. I mean, who's to say they can't win? I mean, because I'll definitely be a believer. If they beat Georgia, then they can beat anybody.
That's true.
They might beat Georgia again, but if they can beat Georgia, then you got to believe. So I don't think that's a bad number. I think if you want to put $10 on it, go for it, or whatever your unit is. I'd say a quarter of a unit. If you want to put a quarter of a unit on it, sure, why not? But if you think that LSU is going to beat Georgia, then just go ahead and bet that they're going to make the playoff because you're getting a better number. If they win Saturday and beat Georgia, I mean, they're going to the playoff. Period. Amen.
The more I think about this, if I know we argued about this on Monday. If LSU should win out and USC and TCU both win out, which, by the way, I'm not sure any of them are going to win out, but if that does happen, I think Georgia might be in trouble, guys. I really do.
No way.
I really do. I mean, they would be the one team that's not a conference champion, and it's right. The committee always says that we value championships. Georgia,
the only way Georgia,
very nervous.
The only way Georgia doesn't make it is if either A, they lose to Georgia Tech, which isn't going to happen.
No.
Or B, LSU blows their doors off, which isn't going to happen. I mean, LSU's probably not – I mean, they're not going to beat them, but if they beat them, it's certainly not going to be in a blowout. Georgia has, in the games they needed to, I mean, they've done what they needed to do. And they beat the heck out of Tennessee with Hendon Hooker, and it doesn't look any less impressive now because Hendon Hooker's out. I mean, there's no way.
I mean, Tennessee's number 9 in the country. And, I mean, Hendon Hooker played 3 quarters of that game Saturday night. They lost that game with him playing.
Right, but that doesn't take anything away from what Georgia did to him.
No, I mean, it's a top 10 win. But if you're looking at a one-loss Georgia team that did not win its conference title and comparing it to a one-loss USC team and an undefeated TCU teams.
First off, TCU is going to get in. They're undefeated. They're getting in. There is 0.0000 chance that USC makes it over Georgia. 0.000. There is no way they take USC over Georgia. No way.
What
Now,
is
I'd say that they could. I think there is a chance. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think there's a chance that USC would make it over LSU, even if LSU would have beat Georgia. I don't think it would happen, but there's a slight chance that would happen. But there is no chance USC makes it over Georgia and LSU gets in. Not going to happen.
what's Georgia's second best win if they lose to LSU?
It doesn't matter. They're Georgia. They're the defending national champion. They're number one all season long. They're not going to take them out now. I don't even need to make a case. I'm telling you right now. I mean, we are now. You're jumping on the LSU train because you're so convinced. I think you want USC in there, which is great, fine and dandy. I don't really care. I mean, USC and TCU both will get the doors blown off of them if they play either Georgia or Ohio State and then the playoff. Either one of them, they're going to get the doors blown off of them. So it doesn't matter if you want.
But
USC
that doesn't. We're not putting the 4 best teams in. It's never been about that. It's the 4 most deserving teams. Happy Thanksgiving.
No, it's not. It's not about the most deserving teams. Stop saying that. It's not. They don't care who's the most deserving. Whether it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be in your mind. It's supposed to be in the average college football fan's mind. It's not that way in the committee's mind. They don't care who deserves to be in. They never have.
I mean, they say it is the most
so
deserving.
Does the basketball committee.
If it's the best, let the sports books choose the 4 teams, and they'll take Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and Michigan.
Well, then you'd have actually real playoff then.
I mean, that would be – but if that's the case, why are we even playing the games? Then the Super Bowl could just be –
if you just say that and do that, I don't disagree with you. If you come out and say that, sure. But that's the case.
We can just play the Super Bowl now. It'll be Bills against Eagles. And we'll just skip the playoffs. I
don't deny anything you're saying, but until they have a real playoff and come up with a better system and find a way to do this and actually make it so. I'm not saying I hate the computer system, which they can manipulate, by the way, any way they want to. You can't. There's no way to really do it unless you have 12 teams, and then I don't care when you get to 12 teams. It doesn't make a difference who 8, 9, 10, and 11, and 12 are because they're not going to win anyway.
Yeah, we'll see. They will eventually. The other.
By the way,
game,
Uncle Big Nick told me today, and I didn't realize this, but if the playoffs had started this week and they had a 12-team playoff, Tulane would face Michigan.
If they got to win, yeah. I mean, if it started this week, sure. But Tulane needs to win. If they win this game in Cincinnati, they get into the American Athletic Championship game. In fact, they would host the American Athletic Championship game. And then if you're a New Orleanian, you got a choice to make on December the 3rd, because do you stay home and watch LSU, or you go to Atlanta and watch LSU, or Tulane's going to be playing at home at the same time, probably against UCF. So
that's brutal.
First of all, they got to win this game. They have not beat a ranked team in the AP poll in 61 consecutive tries. Cincinnati is number 25, so that streak's on the line as well.
Go ahead, Spencer. I'll let you take this one.
Am I back, y'all? My connection.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm going with Tulane in this one. I think they finally break the streak. We had talked about that Monday. The streak of them not having beaten a ranked opponent and God knows how long. It's been kind of embarrassing. But I think this is their shot because I'm not really buying the Cincinnati team. I mean, they had their moment last year, and this year's team is still decent, but it's not nearly what it was last year. So I don't think being on the road is going to be too much for this Tulane team. It seems like a team that's hungry and wanting to make a New Year's Six bowl. So I'm thinking that they can take this one and possibly win that AAC championship. That's going to be the real test, though, because they'll probably have a rematch with UCF. Lots
on the line, Jim. Who would have thought Tulane too?
I'm not betting against this streak of 61. Sorry. They win, great, good for them. I'm not betting anyway. But if I were to, if someone's put $20 in my paycheck and said you have to bet on the Tulane Cincinnati game, then I would bet on Cincinnati because any bettor that's worth a grain of salt is not going to bet against the 61 game streak. It's not going to happen. So there you go. There's my analysis.
Well, we'll find out what some of those bettors did with their grains of salt. Max Meyer from Caesar Sportsbook is here. Also want to ask him about the Thanksgiving Day games and the Saints and LSU as well. So we'll bring in Max. How are you today, Max?
I'm good. Just looking forward to another great weekend of sports and really week, even though we don't get football tonight, but at least there's great college basketball today to hold us over.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about basketball, but there's lots of basketball this week as well. The Maui Invitational and the Battle for Atlantis and all those sorts of things. Um, let's start right where we were when you came in, Max, and talk Tulane Cincinnati. This game is Friday afternoon. The line is moving in Tulane's favor. It was Cincinnati -2 down to -1. Does that reflect the money flowing in on the Green Wave?
It's actually been very two-way action so far for this game. Tulane's gotten about like 56% of the tickets, Cincinnati in that like a similar range, like 52, 53% of the handle. Just when, obviously Cincinnati, like after the season that they had last year, they're not the same team, but they still have a little bit of that brand recognition versus Tulane. They've just been covering machines for most of the season this year, but you still see, a spread as small as -1 with a team, perceived as good as they are, like Cincinnati. And I understand that the public, backing them at that low of a number. And then on the flip side, Tulane's defense has just been really impressive, and they've been rewarding bettors left and right for pretty much every week. So I understand the two-way action in this game.
Let's move on, Max, to the Thanksgiving games, and then we'll circle back to our local teams. But big slate tomorrow. Bills at Lions, Giants at Cowboys, both big spreads, and then a smaller spread for the two evening games, Patriots, Vikings, NFL, and the Egg Bowl in college football. Which one of these games is seeing the most action from you guys?
Oh, easily Patriots Vikings, surprisingly, because we took a $275,000 bet on Cowboys -9.5. But even still, the Vikings for NFL and for college, they've gotten the most tickets and the most money to cover the spread. And I get it, at 2.5, especially against a Patriots team that looked pretty lackluster in their win over the Jets last weekend. It seems like a low line, but there's a reason why the Cowboys were favored in Minnesota last weekend and just absolutely blew the doors off of them. The Vikings have a negative point differential despite being an 8-2 team. And it's just that they've won a lot of close games, but just given how they've performed, you wouldn't expect them to be an 8-2 team compared to, with all their close wins and just the disappointing disappointing loss against Dallas. And so, but the fact that they're only 2.5 in a bounce back spot against the Patriots, bettors are ignoring the primetime Kirk Cousins effect, and they're still, rolling with the Vikings. They're getting over 80% of the tickets in the handle so far.
First 8-2 team in NFL history to have, or better than 8-2, to have a negative point differential at this point in the season ever.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, no, and the betting market for a lot of weeks has been fading this Vikings team, believing that they're not as good as what other, I guess maybe more casual bettors perceive them to be, and they were definitely right last weekend.
So why would they jump on them now? It's kind of weird.
Yeah, just because I think that the Patriots aren't viewed as the same class as the Cowboys, and the fact that it's at 2.5 and all you have to do is win by a field goal. And they just think, with the Vikings, how they got trampled at home, that they're not going to have two disappointing home performances in a row.
If you do get bored of Patriots Vikings, which has a chance to be kind of a slugfest, you have the Egg Bowl. And Max, we got a question here. Why is the spread in the Egg Bowl so close? Ole Miss only -2 at home. The Lane Kiffin speculation, he could be going to Auburn. Does that have something to do with that?
No, I think it's just with Ole Miss. This is another team, especially with kind of a little bit similar to the Vikings. I guess that they don't have a negative point differential, but this was a team that bettors thought, or sharp bettors thought, wasn't really as good as their record. They were only laying 2.5, 3 at Arkansas last week, and Arkansas just completely blew them out. I think with that game, they were just so close to beating Bama, and that was really Lane Kiffin's Super Bowl with how much he likes to irk Nick Saban, and so there might have been a little bit of a letdown. Versus Mississippi State, they've been pretty sneaky throughout most of the season. I think they're a very solid team. I like Mike Leach as a coach, and he's definitely pretty solid as an underdog. I just think Ole Miss has been very Jekyll and Hyde, and definitely one interesting angle I guess you can look at is that Lane Kiffin this season and in many seasons past, he's been really good in the first half in terms of covering the first half line, but he's been the worst coach ever for second half spread. So that could definitely be something to look at if Ole Miss gets off to a quick start in this game.
Max, I see that the Lions Bills line keeps going, the total keeps going up and up and up. It's a 54.5, which is obscenely high.
Highest spread in weeks, or highest total in weeks in the NFL.
What kind of action are you getting? Are you getting a ton of over? Because from what I see, I think is it a case where the sharps kind of like the over, but the public says it's too high?
It's a good amount of action on the over, but like you said, it is a high total, so it's nothing really overwhelming. And a lot of the time, sharps won't, just with a total as high as 54.5, you need a lot of things to go right. And especially with, sharp NFL sharp bettors, a lot of the time they like to go under the total versus over the total, just because with, more casual bettors, like they're rooting for points versus with sharp bettors, they're rooting for things, I guess, not to happen.
Right.
But with this total, we just saw Bills Browns, and there was a lot of scoring late in the fourth quarter, but the Bills were kind of like that game was kind of sluggish to start, even though it ended up going over. But I think the fact that the Bills just played in Detroit, the Lions and Jared Goff, it seems like that they've always been better offensively in a dome and at home versus on the road, even though they just, took care of business against the Giants. And you see the Lions defense, and it's just been so porous throughout most of the season. And I don't know, 54.5, it's a lot. The Bills have a legit defense, and I think you can definitely count on the Bills to, put up their half of production for that total. And I guess that's why the line is as high as it is at 9.5. But I still think that 54.5 is pretty high.
And I know I'm jumping ahead, and I know Zach wants to move on. I'm jumping ahead to Sunday because conversely, only the third time since 2012, we have a total of 35 or fewer. It's 35 in Broncos and Panthers. I'd like to get your thoughts on that, and if you're actually seeing any action on that.
Yeah, so in the beginning of the week, it was mostly under money that was coming in and kind of moving this line down. And now it's been like a good mix, just when better, even with the Broncos, who've been the NFL under team so far this week, or so far this year, I should say, 35, 36, it's just such an obscenely low total. And so, even though the Broncos have just been so putrid on offense, and even with Sam Darnold taking over for the Panthers, you just don't see those types of totals, and you don't really need a lot. You don't need much to go right in order for it to go over that total, especially, with Sam Darnold and Russell Wilson, if they have like a turnover in their own territory and, giving the opposite team good field position from something like that, it just doesn't take a lot. And so I understand how, I guess there's like a nice tug of war with this total just because it's so low, even with two bad offenses.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yep, and yeah, Max, I wanted to get your thoughts on that Cowboys-Giants line. It seemed like a pretty wide spread for a divisional matchup. Is that something to do with, do you think is it more the publics on the Dallas, or do you think more the sharps really like them? It seems like that spreads and it's moving even more in favor of Dallas.
Yeah, so we opened this Cowboys -8, and now it's up to -10. And like I said earlier, we took a $275,000 bet on the Cowboys at -9.5. We've been seeing a good amount of sharp action on the Cowboys, and with the Giants, like they had a couple injuries last week with Adoree Jackson and Wan'Dale Robinson. And, as great of a job as Brian Daboll has done in his first season in New York, he's kind of, patching up holes with duct tape and, it feels like it could collapse at any moment. And with the Cowboys, they're right there with the Eagles and the 49ers as for the teams that I think are the best NFC team. But 10 points, I agree with you, especially in a divisional game, especially with how profitable division underdogs have been so far this season, especially at over a touchdown. I just think it's a lot of points and maybe a bit of an overreaction to last week's thrashing by the Cowboys over the Vikings.
And the Giants lost the Lions.
Yeah.
Let's circle back to our local teams here, Max, and get your thoughts on these before we let you go. LSU also a 10-point favorite against Texas A&M. This is Good example of one, as we said earlier, like the look-ahead line. This is why you don't get a look-ahead line for every game, because A&M extremely devalued to where they were earlier in the season, and just the opposite for LSU.
Yeah, and I mean, I made a huge mistake. I laid the 33.5 with A&M last week against UMass, and that did not work out in my favor. But yeah, A&M easily the most disappointing team in college football this season. And still, like 10 still seems like, a pretty low number. But if there's any, I mean, obviously Jimbo Fisher, he's just trying to get like any sense of momentum, just to, like, salvage that next recruiting class, just like to show that there's still life at College Station. And then LSU, that I don't necessarily know if they'll take Texas A&M for granted. Brian Kelly's actually very good, has been very good as a favorite, as a coach in terms of not losing outright. But, just seeing the path to potential college football playoff and Georgia looming the following week, it's tough. For me, I would stay away from this game. Action-wise, we've gotten about 84% of the tickets and 82% of the handle on LSU. Not a big surprise. Obviously, Louisiana sports fans love to back their teams when they're doing well, and LSU is just completely rolling. The over's actually gotten some pretty lopsided action. About 95% of the money's on the over, and that total's moved from 46 to 47.5.
All right, and then on Sunday, New Orleans Saints out in California, Santa Clara County, to face the 49ers. Speaking of teams who are rolling, the 49ers keep rolling. They won big on Monday night, but again, a big number here on a short week.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a short week for the 49ers. At least they're at home, though, and it's not like, that they have to, travel from going to a Mexico State neutral site to a road game. But the 49ers, they've just looked completely rejuvenated ever since acquiring Christian McCaffrey. And with, McCaffrey and Kittle and Deebo Samuel, you have a bunch of guys who are really good at generating yards after the catch or yards after contact. And that's made Jimmy Garoppolo's life a lot easier. And you already have Kyle Shanahan, who's an A-plus play caller in Garoppolo's favor. I saw that the Saints have Marshawn Lattimore back in practice, which I think will help, especially because the defense has been pretty disappointing so far this season. But 49ers still gotten majority of the action, even with the big number. They've gotten about 66% of the tickets and 84% of the handle. We were actually very high on the Cardinals on Monday night, but I just think, better seeing the 49ers absolutely cruise to a big win and just seeing all the offensive weapons compared to, a Saints defense that has really disappointed. I understand that I understand why the 49ers are getting the action that they are. And I think the 49ers are going to be a big public team for the rest of the season.
Fantastic stuff, as always, from Max Meyer, content writer at Caesar Sportsbook. Max, thanks for coming by, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
All right. Thanks to you guys as well. Have a good one.
Thank you, Max.
All right, Max Meyer there with us. Time to get on to our picks for this week as we wrap things up here on Bayou Bets Holiday Edition. A couple of things first from the non-football world. Pelicans play tonight. Whoops, that's the wrong slide. Pelicans play tonight at San Antonio. They're 7-point favorites. Jim, you took in our best bets tonight, took San Antonio with the points.
Yeah, I got 7.5. The Spurs have covered, I can't remember exactly what the number is. It's something along the lines of 8 of the last 9 they have covered against the Pelicans. And frankly, the Spurs have played much better at home than they played on the road. They've been awful on the road. They were awful in this last road stretch. So I got a feeling they're going to come in. The Pels probably the chest of boasting out after beating Golden State, even if it was the second string by 45 points. It just seems like a kind of a flat spot. And the Pels just have trouble with Pop. I mean, he knows how to beat teams he's familiar with. And there might not be more two familiar teams than the Spurs and Pelicans in this division.
The Western Conference is kind of a mess right now. So if the Pels can rack together some wins on this road trip, could find themselves in pretty good position. Then Friday, we mentioned this USA against England, plus 475 for the Americans on the 3-way line. A draw is 3-1, and then England the favorite. There is a little bit curious. Harry Kane, England's best goal scorer, has an ankle injury. He's questionable to start, may come off the bench. They do think he's going to be able to play. Although there's a possibility with another game Tuesday coming up for England, it'll be against Wales, that they could rest Harry Kane, and that would be to the Americans' advantage. So interesting stuff there. That's on Friday. at 1 o'clock. And then, of course, football all weekend long. Fantastic stuff. Haven't talked yet about Ohio State, Michigan, and we didn't actually forgot to ask Max about that, but I know there is some money on Michigan. This line went from 9 down to 7.5. Spencer, what's your take on, as they call it up north, the game?
Yeah, it should be interesting, but I'm thinking this is the year Ohio State. I mean, they usually win it, and I think it'll get back to that because last year it was Michigan's time, and yeah, I don't see it because I feel like this is a game where C.J. Stroud really shows what he's made of. You know, he's hadn't been smooth sailing for him some weeks. I mean, they had that Northwestern hiccup that ended up a near disaster. You know, they didn't play that great against Penn State. You know, like they didn't cover last week against Maryland, but I'm thinking they put it all together against Michigan. I mean, Michigan just doesn't have enough firepower, and Blake, the running back Corum was missed last week, got hurt last week. Not sure how healthy he'll be for this one. So give me Ohio State.
Jim, I think both teams were kind of caught looking ahead last week, so I think we'll see the best version of both teams here.
I think Ohio State wins this one easily. I agree with Spencer. I think they got some revenge on their minds, and frankly, I think they're just that much better of a team than Michigan. So all the Michigan talk can be put to bed after this week. They're not any good. But the game that I'm looking forward to, because let me tell you, you know who the biggest Notre Dame fans in the country are this week?
They're down here on the Bayou is where they are.
Nope. LSU's going if they win or not. I told you that already. The biggest Notre Dame fans on the planet, but LSU's not going to be Georgia, so that's a moot point, are Alabama. Alabama comes right back into this thing if Notre Dame beats USC.
What about Clemson?
Clemson is a joke. No.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Do you think?
Are you picking Notre Dame?
In?
I don't. I think if they're going to put a team that they can put in year after year, they'd rather put in Alabama. That's just.
Are you picking Notre Dame? Is that a Fighting Irish selection there?
I think Notre Dame has. I certainly have them to cover. I think it's going to be a tight game, and I think Notre Dame does win that game. Yes.
But by the way, you don't know this, Jim, but we're going to do our picks in a minute. Our Carville picks, which are every Friday morning in the Advocate and Times Picayune. You and I are opposite on all 8 picks.
Are we really?
I know we argue a lot,
goodness.
but that's hard. It is hard to do that.
That is really hard to do.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen 2 of us, and it's you and I argue all the time. All 8 picks are opposite.
So we'll go 4 and 4.
Yeah, that's probably what will happen. There's a couple I feel pretty good about, and a couple where I'm just like, I'll take that side because I'm not real sure. And I'm sure you were the same way.
There were a couple.
Yeah,
I really like Notre Dame. I think they've been playing much better down the stretch. They started off not playing real well. They're getting adjusted to their new coach and his style. And you lose a guy like Brian Kelly, and I know that it was in house and all that, but it's. I just think they're playing better, and I think USC is so overrated. Although I think the Pac-12 in general is overrated. I think Oregon's a decent team, but if they play anybody that's really good, they're going to get crushed too.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Although I do think Oregon State is underrated. I think Oregon State beats Oregon this week, and that means USC would play either Washington or a rematch with Utah in the Pac-12 title game.
By the way, whether it's LSU or Alabama that plays K-State in the Sugar Bowl, they're going to demolish that team.
K-State's not bad. They're not bad. But
Tulane.
How about putting LSU in the Cotton Bowl against Tulane? That's what I want to see.
It would be fun, but and SI, I wrote in the newsletter this morning that Sports Illustrated actually in their bowl projections, they had.
Ray.
Thank you, Al Ray. I appreciate that. In their bowl projections, they have LSU and Tulane playing in the Cotton Bowl. I think that's just for funsies. If you look at ESPN and CBS, they both have LSU playing K-State in the Sugar Bowl, and I think that is highly likely. It
really comes down to what the Sugar Bowl wants. Do they want LSU a second straight year? I mean, Tennessee is the other team, but Tennessee doesn't have Hooker, so I think Sugar Bowl will probably take LSU if it comes down to that selection. I think you're right. In the NFL this weekend, Spencer, interesting lines here. Bengals favored in Nashville. I knew we were going to be on opposite sides on that one. That didn't surprise me at all. I will say another one. Sunday Night Football, in the Carville picks, 9 of the 10 of us took the Eagles. I was the only one who took the Packers. I was a little surprised by that.
Well, I'm glad one of us did, and I'll let Spencer answer. But the reason why is, what happens when all 10 people take the same team, right?
That's right. The other team automatically wins. So now I'll probably lose that one while
So
the
thanks,
9 of
Zach.
y'all win. But
Go ahead,
yeah.
Spence.
The Eagles. I had to go with them because I can't do the Packers. I mean, I just can't. I mean, they're just one of those teams that they stink. They are just one of those stinky teams they are not good on either side of the ball. I mean, they're just horrible. I mean, AJ Dillon, the running game doesn't do much. Aaron Rodgers outside of Christian Watson doesn't have any reliable weapons. I think the Eagles blow the doors off them. And then that Bengals-Titans line, very interesting. I was tempted to take Tennessee, but I just feel like something's fishy about that line. I couldn't do it. I had to go with the Bengals, man. Joe Burrow.
Not fishy. They give no love to Tennessee.
They never do.
Never do.
In fact, on the look-ahead line,
back, so.
Yeah, Jamar Chase may be back. On the look-ahead line, Tennessee's a 6.5-point dog in Philly next weekend. So, we'll probably be on opposite sides of that one too.
You don't think Mike Vrabel doesn't use that to his advantage?
Oh, listen, Mike Vrabel.
It's posted in the locker room. I guarantee he's got 500-point type +2 in the locker room.
Mike Vrabel's outcoaches his talent more than any coach in the NFL.
No,
I mean, he could be the coach of the year every year the way he goes. By the way, I do have to ask you guys, because I've been asking everybody. I'm in a $100,000 survivor pool. It's down to 56 of us. You have to take 2 every week at this stage. I've got the Dolphins left against Houston, so that's one of my picks this week. The other one, I could play it safe and take Buffalo tomorrow, but I think I'm either taking the Commanders or the Chargers. They're both 4.5-point favorites. Which direction do you go?
If those are your 2 choices, I would go with the Commanders, not only because I feel more strongly about them, but because you don't really want to take a team on the road. And not only that, there's so much uncertainty with the Cardinals. Kyler Murray comes back. I'm not sure that the Chargers have an answer for Kyler Murray. I could easily see Arizona winning that game.
And he did practice today. So that's the way I'm leaning. Also have the Jets, who may be facing the Bears without Justin Fields, but you don't know. Yeah.
You can't take that.
All right, let's do some picks. New thing, we teased this just a little bit, but we're taking $20 each week out of our paychecks and betting on something crazy just to see what happens, just to see if we can hit something. Spencer, you put together a little Turkey Day parlay.
Yeah, he has to do a Turkey Day parlay, to have it, they get it out the way, either be sweating it out or just have it in early. And I went with the Bills to cover, Giants to cover, and then the under in the Vikings-Patriots game. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I'm feeling good about the Bills. Giants with all their injuries might be a little tough. But if I can get through both of those, I'll be having to sweat out that total, which I have a feeling that total's going to be right around that where it's set at. So I'll probably, if those first 2 hit, I'll probably be recording the sweat it out video.
Yeah, check out the Bet.NOLA Twitter feed, because if the Bills and Giants both cover, Spencer's going to put some video on himself sweating out. He's going to be rooting for punts on live TV. What could be more exciting than that? Looking for the under in that last game. Our big bucks picks for this holiday weekend. I'm going Bucks -3.5. I know you guys don't like that. I think the Bucks are undervalued in the market. They had some bad results. They had some bad results when they were not healthy. They are now healthy, and the Browns are terrible. And by the way, I don't know what to feel about the Browns even when they get Watson back, because they're out of it.
Did you read my NFL picks column today, by the way?
I skimmed it. I haven't read the whole thing.
Okay, well, the wind is supposed to be like 20-something miles an hour in Cleveland this weekend, which means it's going to be a run fest.
Tampa Bay that's a concern. And by the way, I got Tampa at -3 earlier in the week, but for this, for purposes of this, we have to take the Thursday lines, go 3.5. Couple of Spencer's parlay legs there. I got Bills and the Patriots Vikings under. My wild card, I talked about Oregon State. I think they win the Civil War at home. My wild card is a player prop. Gabe Davis tomorrow in the Dome. Lions secondary is terrible. Only 54.5 yards. Come on, he'll get there.
Okay. Interesting player prop for the wild card. I like it though. I like it.
Yeah, it's a fantasy play, Spencer. Play a little Thanksgiving DFS. We talked about that on the fantasy write-up yesterday. Sure. Gabe Davis, like him a lot. All right, Spencer, you fell. You were doing so well. You're below the starting mark of $1,000 now, down to $990. So how are you going to bounce back?
Yeah, I'm buying the Chargers. I think they're gonna do well regardless if Kyler Murray plays or not. Justin Herbert with Keenan Allen is much better, and with Keenan Allen back, I think the Chargers win pretty handily there. And then I have a couple of my parlay legs in there, and then the total Raiders Seahawks. We talked about that on the fantasy roundup as a low key shootout, thinking that one goes well over that total. And then the money line parlay for the wild card, going with the Pennsylvania special, the Eagles and the Steelers to win outright there. And it was a Sunday night and Monday night matchup.
A little prime time parlay.
Yeah, the Steelers, I was a little leery because of Kenny Pickett, but I think their defense is on the upswing as far. They won't have to face Joe Burrow. They get to face freaking Matt Ryan. So I'm thinking they'll bounce back and deliver a good showing.
Our big bucks have been in a slump, to put it mildly. Jim, you're in the lead despite a week in which you bet $108 and lost $107.
Yeah, I'm still above water.
But you're still above water. So what have you got for us?
I hate, this is a weird week. I almost made the Commanders my bet of the week. They stopped the run. The Falcons aren't going to be able to run the ball. This is certainly one of my top plays. I've already played it at -4. I think it's moved to -4.5 since I played it. Bucks
Chase
Browns
Young expected back, by the way, for Washington.
Yeah, so even more good news. And Bucks Browns, we talked about it. I really wanted to take the Browns at +3.5. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So I took the under instead. I really like the under there, like I talked about with the wind. I think both teams. I think there's gonna be lots of punts. I think there's gonna be lots of running. I think it's gonna be an ugly game. I think it's gonna be a lot like the Panthers and Bucks game. And I think the Bucks are so overrated. Just because they had a good game before their bye week doesn't mean they're back. And I don't think they're back. And then my teaser of the week, which until last week we're doing pretty well. I have Philadelphia +1, basically what Spencer's got there. And then Titans, they keep covering. I don't even need them in a damn teaser. They just keep covering. So I'll just take the bonus points. And so I need Tennessee to cover 8 now. I think it was 8. So Tennessee to cover 8 and Philadelphia just to win. Looking good this week.
I like what you did there. You took the line movement for the Titans up to 2, but you didn't bother with it for Washington when it went up to 4.5. So
when I sent it in, it wasn't 4.5.
All right.
I looked. All right. I promise.
Okay. That's it for us. Bayou Bets. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Look, we got football day tomorrow. We got USA England on Friday, plus more football. Tulane plays Cincinnati. Obviously, Ohio State Michigan kicks off a great Saturday. And then Sunday, we got the Saints Niners and a bunch of great NFL games. So we'll be back with you Monday at 4 o'clock to wrap it all up. We'll see you then. And guys, I'm excited.
Thanksgiving, gentlemen. Yeah, I was going to say.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yes, enjoy it. And if the Giants and Bills cover, check out Spencer sweating out that under, baby. We're gonna put a live video on him. All the tryptophan and beer in his system, and it should be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. All right, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll see you next time.